So in this example, we're going to find exact values of trig functions of angles whose reference angles are special. And all we need to do that is that chart from last time that we memorized, the trig functions of 30, 45, and 60 degrees, and how to use reference angles, and the sign trick. All students take calculus. Okay? So if you memorize the unit circle, please don't use that trick here, because the unit circle won't help you when the angles aren't special. Okay? So try to do it my way here, because it's going to be more general later on. You're going to need reference angles that aren't special later on. Okay. So let's find the cosine of 135 degrees exactly, which means it might very well involve square roots. No decimals normally when you're finding exact values, unless they're terminating, like 1/2 and 0.5 are the same thing. That's fine. Okay, so the cosine of 135, let's find the reference angle. The way you do this is you find the reference angle for 135 degrees. Okay, so 135 is in which quadrant? Second quadrant. If you need to, draw this, but eventually you're going to want to get to the point where you can do it without drawing it. Okay, which is the way I'm going to do it here. So 135 degrees, remember that in the second quadrant, the given angle, so this is like your theta, right? From the previous examples. Remember, in the second quadrant, the given angle and alpha, the reference angle, are supplementary, right? So what would alpha be in this case? 45. 180 degrees minus 135. If you need to, draw a picture just like in the previous examples, and you could get that, couldn't you? Okay, and then, yeah, that's actually 45 degrees. Now, in the second quadrant, is the cosine positive or negative? The cosine of 135, since 135 is in the second quadrant, it's in Q2, quadrant 2, right? It's got to be negative. Which two quadrants is cosine positive in? First and fourth. All students take calculus. That C is on the calculus in the fourth quadrant. So in the second quadrant, cosine's negative. In the third quadrant, cosine's negative. So, okay, so we know the answer is negative. Okay, so here's how you do it, you guys. Turns out, then, that the cosine of 135 is going to equal one or the other, plus or minus, not both. I'm going to erase one of these in a second. Plus or minus the cosine of its reference angle, 45. But we've already determined it's got to be which one? The minus. So it's got to be the opposite of the cosine of 45. And then that's how you get the sine, by the way. You don't have to show this many steps, but I'm just trying to be very detailed here. That's how you get the sine, and then you've memorized what the cosine of 45 degrees is. Maybe not yet, but you will have. So negative root 2 over 2. The cosine of 45 degrees from that chart from last time is root 2 over 2. So negative root 2 over 2. Cosine of 135 is negative root 2 over 2. Does everybody see the thought process? Any questions? Yes? Because the cosine of an angle in the second quadrant is negative. So let me put that in the notes here. The cosine of 135 has to be negative, since 135 degrees is in Q2, quadrant 2. Does that help? Okay, good. Let's do tangent of 330 degrees. Okay, 330 degrees is in which quadrant? Fourth. So is the tangent of, so this is just a couple of notes that you don't necessarily have to show this work. Once you get good at this, you just go right to the answer. But at first it might be helpful. So the tangent of 330 degrees, since 330 is in the fourth quadrant, right? Roman numeral 4. Does it have to be positive or negative? Negative, right? Which two quadrants is tangent positive in? Yeah, remember the mnemonic device. All students take calculus. It's in the first and third quadrant that the tangent's positive, which necessarily means it's negative. Tangent is negative in the fourth quadrant. And that's where 330 degrees is. So I know right away that my answer better have a negative in it. Does that explanation make sense? Okay, now let's find the reference angle. Theta is 330. It's in the fourth quadrant, so what's alpha equal to? Remember, you take the one full rotation. When the given angle is in the fourth quadrant, you take one full rotation, which is 360, subtract off the given angle, which is 330. That gives you the leftover angle, which is alpha. And again, if you need to, draw that picture. So what do we get? 30 degrees. All right. So then, and by the way, this is all going to be done in your head later on. You're not going to need to show this work later on. Once you get good at it, or that should be your goal, to get good at it enough to not show this in your head. So here's what you do want to show. So this is what you need to show. Show this. The tangent of 330 then has got to equal the opposite, because it's negative in the fourth quadrant, of the tangent of its reference angle, 30. Okay? Remember those triangles that we drew? Those triangles were congruent. So the absolute value of the trig ratios will be exactly the same for any particular reference angle. It's only the sine, SIGN, that differs. So that's why this works. So, okay, so what was the tangent of 30 degrees? So the tangent of 330 will be negative root 3 over 3. Okay? So there's your answer.